So the Knuckles series came out just yesterday, and I was able to watch all of the episodes, and I have to say, despite the mixed reception that the fans are giving it, I actually quite enjoy it. It's not perfect, of course, as no series is, but today I'm going to be giving my review on the Knuckles series, and at the end, my overall rating. I'll be breaking this down into categories. First is the story, second is the characters, the execution of everything, and then my rating. This review will include spoilers, so if you don't want spoilers, then go and watch the series, come back here, and let me know what you think. Starting off with the story, I have to say the story is honestly a lot better than I was expecting. The general premise is Sonic tries to make Knuckles more comfortable with Earth and just to enjoy himself instead of always worrying about the Master Emerald. It kind of halfway works. It doesn't work out very well for the characters because Knuckles ends up taking a whole bunch of things, including completely dismantling the car that they had apparently, and just turning it into this giant throne that he sits on at the dinner table, which is honestly quite funny. But yeah, Maddie and Sonic probably had a talk about that. And the part of the story that follows that is Wade, who, if anybody doesn't know who Wade is, because it's just been a little while since Sonic Movie 2 came out, it's like, how in the world? How has it already been 2 years since Sonic Movie 2 came out? It's absolutely crazy. But anyways, Wade is this cop that gets disrespected a whole ton, and honestly, I know that a lot of people just don't like his involvement in the series because he shows up in it more than Knuckles, but I actually think that the plot is pretty good. And before we leave an angry comment, let me explain why. It's shown that Wade likes bowling a whole ton, and he likes it because of his dad, more on him later. The thing is, Wade is wanting to go and win a bowling tournament, but he doesn't feel very confident in his ability to do so. So then Knuckles finds out that he's wanting to be trained, and Knuckles trains him in the way of a warrior, which is pretty different than what Knuckles was expecting, but it still works out because Knuckles sees the bowling area as a kind of personal battleground for Wade. That was definitely interesting. Lots of training from Knuckles, lots of insults to Wade, emotional damage to Wade, honestly. Guy deserves more respect. I actually really like his character. But there are also these guys who are trying to get Knuckles' power, and one might argue that's pretty similar to Sonic Movie 1 with Robotnik trying to get Sonic's power, but you can't really blame them because, I mean, they are kind of extraterrestrials, but it does make sense because later on, the female antagonist actually does bring up that she doesn't want the kind of power back in Sonic Movie 1 when Sonic was running so fast and just kind of gave everyone a good old EMP. Another thing that I think is cool is the guy that made the Sonic Movie 2 credit music, the music Stars in the Sky, would play it, but like copyright. He actually played a pretty big role in the series. And if anybody doesn't know who this is, his YouTube name is Kid Cudi. I don't really know too much about him outside of the Sonic franchise. But yeah, I just thought that's pretty cool. I always love to see fans of a franchise go into an official project of that same franchise. And about midway through, we end up meeting Wade's family, which I would say is honestly pretty funny. His mom apparently knows martial arts. I guess we don't really ever see her use those martial arts. And his sister just says she works for the FBI. And it's just really annoying, but I think her character is honestly pretty funny. I found myself in the second half of the series even wondering if she's actually an FBI agent, because she just honestly seems like she's bluffing a lot of the time. But in the same episode that we meet Wade's family, it's really funny because the FBI lady, and I do forget her name, she's reading a book that is called How to Not Get Taken by Surprise or something like that. And like that is the moment where she gets taken by surprise. It's absolutely peak comedy, and I just love it so much. Probably my favorite joke in the show. Oh, and I should probably also mention that Knuckles is also with the Wade family. And then in the second half of the show, we get introduced to this guy who gives us some pretty menacing vibes. Apparently he worked for Robotnik back when Robotnik was a part of Gun. And then he was kind of forced out of contact with Robotnik after Sonic ran really fast and just EMP'd everything. And I will say story-wise, I feel like there's a whole lot of build-up and he doesn't really get enough justice on screen time with actually using his tech. But his tech looks pretty cool nonetheless. Also throughout the series, there are these Knuckles-powered gloves. When I say gloves, I mean metal gloves. And the villains and the heroes all get holds of them. Obviously, Knuckles doesn't really need to get a hold of it because like he has the power, so he doesn't really need to have any more power. And the last major plot point is Wade does end up finding his dad, who is apparently this big bowling star, and he's very full of himself and also very British. Like the guy has British flags all over him. No offense to British people, of course. I'm just saying what I saw on the show. But a funny plot point is apparently the reason that Wade's dad left him is apparently his dad just left him inside of a TJ Maxx, which I just find like funny that they actually got the product placement in mind just so that they can make that joke. But Wade comes back to his dad. They're okay at first. They're all good. The mom is definitely very skeptical of the dad, but Wade is not very skeptical because he wants a relationship with his dad. But it turns out the dad is actually a huge jerk and hands over the family to Gun for some reason, which I don't know if that was ever really explained why. And also something I forgot to mention is earlier in the series, they defeat this bounty hunter guy, and then that's where Knuckles gets his OVA hat, and apparently Knuckles has a motorcycle as well, which I'm not entirely sure why he has a motorcycle. Other fans and myself are guessing that Shadow's probably going to steal that for Sonic Movie 3, because According to the people in Las Vegas that saw the Sonic Movie 3 trailer, Sonic and Shadow were fighting on the top of buildings, and Shadow also had a motorcycle, so pretty cool to be honest. But yeah, I think that's pretty much it for the story. Aside from the fact that Knuckles' tribe leader, I think his name's like Pack-a-Kamek or something. But my overall review of the story itself, I know that people are thinking that Knuckles showed up way too little, and honestly, I think that he actually showed up a pretty good amount of the show. And let me explain myself. People are calling the show the Wade Whipple Show, which I do actually get because he does show up a whole lot more than Knuckles in the show. But the thing is, when you're writing a character that's supposed to be tough and cool and then also funny, if you show them too much, they're going to end up wearing off whatever effect that you thought was cool about them. Unless the writers are really good. Because if you use Knuckles too much, you're probably going to end up with somewhat of a Sonic Boom situation. And Sonic Boom had good comedy, of course, but they made Knuckles very dumb. Same thing with Shadow. You give Shadow the Hedgehog his own game, and he gets guns and a motorcycle and this line.
A Chaos Emerald? You've got to be kidding me, guys. This is like taking candy from a baby, which is fine by me.
But I think that the plot worked pretty well for what they were trying to do. I wouldn't change too much of it. There were a couple of minor elements that I would change. Example, they had Knuckles meditating. I wasn't really a fan of that because he never really did that in any of his games. But I've never really been a big fan of the guy that Silver's trying to fight in 06 either. And he was in the Wade training flashbacks, so I wasn't crazy about those aspects. But generally, for the plot, I think that it was pretty good. Now, on to the characters. Knuckles is like exactly as he was in the movies, which I think is great. But I do love that they capitalized on, I don't know if I believe it was a TV spot, where Knuckles is just saying, I do love the planet's grapes, the grapes are delicious. And I just absolutely love that. They made that a major element of Knuckles' characters in this series. I really did like that a ton. And they also just made him like just dump a whole bunch of like Cool Ranch Doritos into his mouth, which I just thought was great. I'm surprised why the stores don't have his face on all the things that, like, watch Paramount Plus's Knuckles series. That's just really a missed opportunity. But yeah, again, Knuckles' character is basically the same. Wade, I think, honestly, he's the same as well. I mean, honestly, I gotta say that it's pretty impressive that they actually kept the characters nearly identical to how they are in the movies. Or I guess in Knuckles' case, just one movie. And I think next up, I should probably include Sonic and Tails. Now, I think that they were in the show way too little. I think that at the beginning, when I heard that Sonic and Tails were going to be in the show, I was thinking, okay, cool. I was hoping that they wouldn't overtake Knuckles in the screen time aspect. Luckily, they did not. That being said, though, at the end of the series, I would have really enjoyed it if maybe they would have been like, Knuckles, I didn't know that you could actually like train someone or something like that. And then Knuckles says something and like he's insulted and it's funny or something. I was expecting something like that at the end. That would have been kind of nice. It wasn't absolutely necessary though, so I'll give them a pass. As for the villains, I think that the villains were pretty alright. They felt a little bit generic to me, to be honest. Most things that the tech guy with a beard did, I feel like Jim Carrey Robotnik did just a lot better. Then again though, I mean, it's Jim Carrey Robotnik. Like, how are you supposed to outdo him? And for the smaller villains, they had the tech and they definitely looked like they knew what they were doing, but it does seem like they were written to be a lot more intimidating than they actually were. So then they just ended up kind of just showing up and doing things that were kind of halfway intimidating, which is fine. I don't want them threatening the multiverse or anything. That's the Stinger's job in Sonic and Tails Across the Multiverse. Shameless plug, click top right. And finally, I will be going to the execution of everything. And I say, honestly, I would say that it was executed pretty well. The shots, voice acting, except for Maddie. Maddie's voice acting felt a little bit cheesy, no offense. But for the most part, everything felt on par with the movies, and it felt like the humor was just about the same. And it really did feel like a genuine spin-off adventure, a genuine Sonic adventure, if you will. And while yes, it would have been nice to see a little bit more Knuckles and Sonic and Tails as well, I do understand why they didn't include them as much as they could have. And I believe that the only thing that may have added just an ever so slight bit of quality to this, in my opinion, was James Marsden was absolutely nowhere to be seen, and it was explained that he is out of town. You might be thinking, who's James Marsden? That's Tom. But I don't know, that's just me. And besides, they can't get everybody back. They did a really great job getting all the actors and everybody back. But I think that overall, I might give a Sonic rank, and then I might also give an actual ranking. If I would give it a Sonic rank, I would give it an A rank. Not like back in the Adventure era, A rank was the best rank, but it's not quite S tier, but it's A tier. It's pretty good. I think it's pretty solid, but it's not S tier. And as for an actual rating, I might give it, out of 10, I might give it an 8.5. Because some of the elements brought it down just a little bit, and like I said, the villains could have been handled a little bit more in an interesting way. But anyways, let me know what you guys think of this series in the comment section below. If you haven't seen it, please be sure to see it, because I do think that it is worth your time. I can definitely say it's definitely helped me hold over for Sonic Movie 3, which just cannot come soon enough. But what would you guys have wanted to happen in this series? Be sure to let me know in the comment section below, and I'll see you all in the next one. Goodbye.